I guess we'll start. Well, my name is Nook, and my compadre over here, this man over here, he is Kang. He is the
Howdy.
bear in the Nook and Bear cast.
Indeed. Indeed I am. Good evening, y'all.
Today we're kind of doing like a special podcast. It's going to be taking comic book characters. We're not going to say fixing, but maybe improving upon or bringing new ideas to said comic book characters.
You can
Today,
say it's a form of reinventing. Sorry about that. You can
yeah,
say it's a form of
hey, it's no problem.
reinventing.
Yeah. For tonight's presentation, I'm going to be talking about Miles Morales. Okay?
And I am going to be talking about a somewhat obscure character in comics, but big in the movies. The Mask, as in Jim Carrey's The Mask, as in the original from Dark Horse Comics in the early 90s.
Okay. And the way the format will go is the person who's presenting the presentation, they'll explain kind of the world, they'll kind of give us a little bit of the story, as much as they want, or much as they don't want,
Mhm.
secrets and whatnot. And then after that, we'll have like a discussion, and then we'll move on to the next person. And I am going to go ahead and let Ken go first.
Oh, alright, bet.
Yeah.
Okay. So, The Mask. So this is kind of an interesting one for me because it's both a rebrand, I want to say, but not really a
Mm.
rebrand. It's how do I put this? To simply put it, I kind of want a continuation, but a rebrand of The Mask because last time before he came back in comics with the recent I Pledge Allegiance to the Mask from last year or 2020, can't remember, but I picked up that one. That's good. I like that one for as wild as it is and gritty as it is. I like that comic. But before that, the last time that we actually saw the Mask in comics was in the Joker Mask, where it's basically the weird crossover between the Mask, Joker, and the Batman universe and all that stuff. So the Mask in a DC universe. So picture that,
Right.
right?
And I don't know if you want to count it, but I do remember that they had the itty bitty adventures of the mask was one of them.
Ooh, almost forgot about that. I still got that one too. Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I've not read it, but I remember that coming out. It's like, oh, I kind of want to pick up all these itty bitty adventures because they had like Hellboy, they had
Yup,
the mask, and they had like some other
yup.
characters that I don't remember. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of funny because it's
We
just
kind of
peanut
needed that.
humor.
Exactly. It's what's really good about it. It's just goofy, fun, just a little slice of life with like hero stuff in it. I
And I
like
think the
that.
same creator, I think he did like a Captain Marvel book
He
about it
did?
too. I think so, but I could be wrong about that. I remember he did some for DC, kind of the same vein. Yeah, it was the Tiny Titans. That's what it was, Tiny Titans.
Yes. Yes, I
That's
remember that. I
right.
like that.
It was silly, and I liked it.
It was
Sorry to
so
get off
good
track,
fun.
but I just
No,
remembered
no,
them.
you're good. You're good. I like the
Continue, sir.
conversation. But
Oh yeah.
let's see. So yeah, like, with that and everything, I like to decide to just think, okay, I like these ideas. They're nice and all that stuff. But I'm like, what if we go back to like the Mask in the DC universe? Like, let's just say like DC somehow required like, hey, can we take the rights to the Mask? And Dark Horse is like, you know what? We're not doing anything with them, so go off. And we do that, right? So let's say, because in the final page of like the Joker Mask series, Detective Kellaway decides, like, you know what? I'm going to end the mask reign. And, the madness of the mask and all the people that is kind of messed up and everything. And I'm just going to bury it with Stanley Ipkiss because, in the original comics, Stanley Ipkiss died in that he got shot by his girlfriend, and it was insane and brutal, but it was good, because there are more mask adventures with other wearers. But let's take it back to Stanley real quick.
Eh?
Let's say during like one of those like cosmic collision things or whatever, something happens. It's like, let's say the mask reattached himself to Stanley Ipkiss's corpse and everything. All right, kind of brutal, but hear me out.
Yeah.
Like, it reattaches himself to Stanley's like corpse's face and everything, and it's like boom, he's alive. But he's like fully alive, like skin and all that stuff. It's like, oh hey, it's the mask, and he's back. And now he's kind of just thinking, okay, this is a full body. This is a whole host I could use. And with that, it's like, all right, we got this version of the mask within the DC universe. And I'm thinking, okay, think of the crossovers and other heroes and villains it could potentially meet up with, either work with or work against or fight, all that stuff. Because, I'm me. I like a good crossover. And I kind of want to add a little existential element to it, similar to the Immortal Hulk, where it's like the mask and Stanley's still in there, but it's like, he's doesn't have control. It's just like, but he talks to the mask whenever he's like resting or anything. It's like he looks in his reflection, the mask looks in his reflection and he sees Stanley Ipkiss. And he's trying to convince him, like, dude, just let me go. And the mask is like, nah, brother, I'm gonna ride this train out the long way home and all that stuff and crazy like that,
Yeah.
And just you know, try something like that. And I want to end that right there for now because again, there's like a lot I think you could do with that concept and that idea, especially since they did that one time in the chapters before, but one of the one-off mass comic books like the Night of the Living Ipkiss and everything, where they brought him back again. And it's like they just cut it and they just had to cut it short when he was like out here killing all these cops and Kellaway and everybody else. And it was a good time, but then they ended it by just saying, "Oh, hey, Stanley, you don't wear the mask. There was like a bunch of other wearers after you." And it's like the mask is like, "Well, shucks," and dies. And everybody never died at the end,
Wow.
right?
All right. So, is that the end of your presentation, sir?
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of things. You. So, does this mean that if Stanley takes off the mask, he'll die?
It's more like here's the thing. If he takes off the mask, he'll slowly see his body like decompose and everything. For
Oh,
example, I feel like there's like this idea for like a chapter where it's like he finally takes off the mask and he's his full body again and he's just like finally looking at himself in the physical form for like the first time in a long ass time. But then he realizes, oh shit, I need to get back to the mask. So it's like he goes off to see like all his old friends and everybody else. Like he goes to
okay.
see Kellaway, his girlfriend Kathy, and all these other people and all that stuff. And he's finally like going to like apologize to them, like, hey, I'm sorry I let the mask consume me and I just became a monster and I'm sorry I could have been a better person. You finally
And like
apologize
he's
to
doing
them.
dead men's rights, kind of.
Yes, exactly. Because, like,
Uh,
at this point, I want to get to a point where it's like, Stanley kind of realizes that the world doesn't need him anymore and they need the mask more to, like, balance everything out, whether he's doing hero work or otherwise. So it's like Stan's kind of just accepted the fact that I'm dead and there's just this guy here, the mask and everything. And
uh,
that's, kind of just what I want it to be.
nice. I got a couple of ideas.
Hmm.
It'd be interesting. So the mask, he would just be kind of unhinged, kind of almost all the time,
Oh,
because he's
yes.
he's just the mask now.
Exactly.
Um, could you imagine like if like Cadmus like captured him and used him as like instead of sending out a nuke, they send out the mask to fuck up one
Ooh.
territory?
Yes, I see. See. This is why I like you. You think big.
Oh
I
yeah,
wasn't even trying to go that far, but I'm thinking yes. I like that because I almost forgot about Cadmus for a minute.
oh yeah.
But like, yes, definitely, that'll be a great idea.
And also it'd be kind of cool because he's technically magical, so you could pair him up with like the magic part of DC. Like, could you imagine
Yes.
like Constantine like just trying to track him down?
Yup. The crossover between
And
Constantine and Doctor Fate and all that.
exactly, and then like you could have like the stranger and them trying to like them trying to like read his soul. It's like there is no soul here. How is this creature
Exactly.
alive? Oh,
Exactly.
oh, dude, you know, it'd be really awesome. That fight
Was
between him
that?
and Solomon Grundy,
Yes.
because
Yo.
because Grundy's basically kind of like the Hulk. So imagine like the Hulk trying to fight the Mask.
Exactly, and I would love that, especially with he has like a lot of similar traits to that one character, like Walter and everything from the Mask from the
Yeah.
cartoon and the comics. I'm like, yes, that would
Yeah.
be perfect to use.
Uh,
Oh
And then
man,
and then also it'd be kind of cool because you could explore kind of Loki in this universe. They really don't talk about Asgardian Norse lore and the DC universe too much. Or
very
would
true.
you or would you make the masks not be Loki related?
I kinda because here's the thing. I would like to explore that, but I would also like to like keep the mask like away from like his North mythology roots because I remember in the comics and stuff, he just came from this old African tribe, this anonymous African tribe and
Uh-huh.
everything. When one of those explorers just grabbed it and took it in and it's like, they just took it from this tribe and they did it for like simple rituals. And it's like, hey guys, let's use this mask and sell it for a few bucks. And that was kind of just over
Oh,
after that, and
okay.
that's where all the chaos basically started from. So I'm thinking, yeah, I want to try something like that, but still incorporate the North mythology and everything, because like you said, DC really doesn't explore it, and when they do, they're usually one-off stories, like that time Superman and Wonder Woman just were with Thor, and they were fighting a bunch of bad guys for almost 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's really incidental. But yeah, I didn't realize that they invented the whole. Did they invent the whole Loki thing for the movie?
Yeah, they did that just for the movie and everything, and it's kind of
Uh,
just been canon for the movies ever since, and I guess the cartoons in a way.
yeah, I guess it simplifies it to a point.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I like that. I think you do have some great potential there.
Thank you very
No
much.
problem. I do what I can.
Hmm.
Hmm. Let's see. Uh, if you were to sell it to like Netflix or something, like would you make it like an anthology series or would you make it a movie? Would you make it a miniseries?
Like, okay, I kinda because I'm weird like that. It's like I want to make it kind of an anthology series in a way, where it's like, okay, if I could pitch this particular version of the mask with
Hmm.
would still have an association with DC and all these other characters and stuff. I definitely would want it to possibly fall into a mini series. Like
Hmm.
if it becomes more, then I'm totally open to having multiple seasons, at least maybe 4 or 5 seasons.
Okay.
And yeah, just something like that.
Nice. Yeah, I think the mask he lends himself well to like a mini series slash anthology series pretty well.
Oh yes. No, I
Mostly
agree with
because
that.
mostly because most users are different people, so he would have different powers.
Exactly. This is there's so many characters and people that have attached themselves to this guy. It's like I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you could totally work with that with different people you want to focus on and everything else. Even if it goes as far as the anthology series where it's like, okay, what if we focus on these one person for the next let's say 3 4 episodes, and then we go to another person for the next few episodes, and then we'll save off another for another season. It's a lot of potential right there.
Oh, yeah, and you could actually do just a one-off episode as well. Be like, oh, okay, this person had for one episode, and then like, oh, just like Ipkiss, oh, he gets shot in the back of the head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
All
just
right.
yeah, it writes
Uh,
itself right there. Thank you.
yeah. Hey, no problem. I like to. On mine, I have the ADD, so it kind of goes places.
Oh
It's
no, I
kind of
know
what
exactly what you mean.
it's what happened to my presentation. Like it went from like a presentation to almost writing 5 issues. Like it just kept going.
It
But I'll
starts
try
out
not
that
to
way,
go
right?
too crazy.
Oh yeah, now by all means, let's hear your grand idea for Miles Morales.
Okay. The universe I would probably keep him in would be main continuity. So I believe that's 616.
Hmm.
So that world, a lot of the things are similar. I will say one thing I'm going to change probably
Mhm.
is I'm gonna probably reduce the cast size because Spider-Man, in my mind, and to be fair, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man Peter Parker fan. I'm just gonna let that out there.
Alright, fair.
Like I only watched it from the '90s, from the '90s
Mhm.
cartoon. Didn't read the comics, but I gave Miles Morales a try, and I really liked it.
Nice.
But that was in an alternate universe.
Oh, yeah.
So, one thing I would also do would be to kind of reduce the cast.
Alright.
Like I think Spider-Man now has too many players in his place. I know that's good for filling a universe, but I'm talking about let's kind of strip it away a little bit, like they did with
Mm.
Sonic. Uh,
Mhm.
it, unfortunately, his Sonic's wasn't voluntary, but we're not going to get into that discussion.
That's a whole can of worms.
Uh, but so basically, this is Peter Parker, and it kind of goes towards the future. I'd say
Mhm.
he realizes he's getting old, and
Right.
he realizes he's starting to get slow,
Mhm.
and he wants to have kids,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, general aspirations. So he speaks with Reed Richards, and he's like, "Hey, I kind of want to look into a process of maybe removing the radioactive stuff out of
Mhm.
my blood and getting rid of my powers."
Really?
And also the reason why he wants to do it as well, because he doesn't want to, give it to his kids.
Oh, of course, nah.
Yeah, have them live normal lives. Like he wasn't able to do so because of power and responsibility.
Mhm.
But he's still kind of thinking about it, but because he still got the echo of his uncle's, words going in his head. It's like with great power
Oh,
comes great
yeah.
responsibility.
The iconic line, yep.
Yeah. But after speaking of Reed, he tells him, "I'll look into it."
Mhm.
And then there's rumors going around that Spider-Man is wrecking the seedy underbelly at night, and Peter
Really?
Parker is, he's questioning that because he is Spider-Man.
Of course.
So he decides he's going to go on patrol. Then
Mhm.
he web swings around. It takes an entire night, but he finally hears like a scuffle happening in an
Mhm.
alleyway, and he drops down and he sees like this gangster like mafioso type getting the crap beaten out of him by this kid wearing like a Spider-Man costume and high tops.
Aight.
So what Spider-Man does, he web slings the crook and he throws him on the wall, like sticky.
Of course.
And then the I say adversary a lot in this write up, but I'll just say fake Spider-Man. He cloaks himself,
Mhm.
and then Spider-Man, then Peter Parker kind of looks around, and then suddenly he feels like a slight jolt of like a stun because that's another one of his powers.
Whoa.
Miles had one of Miles' powers. And
Mhm.
Spider-Man, he's slightly paralyzed, but he's able to grab Miles and slam him to the ground.
Damn.
And he's like, "What the hell do you think you're doing, kid?" It's like you're about to kill this man. And the kid, he starts crying. He's like, "I'm sorry. I I just didn't know what to do." Like he this is the man responsible for calling the hit on the hospital where my mother worked, and she got killed.
Oh,
And my
shit.
dad, and my dad, he works himself to death trying to bring this guy in. Problem is, he's with the mob, and he's basically untouchable.
Mm. Damn.
Yeah. So then from there, Spider-Man, kind of thinks to himself. Well, sorry, Peter Parker. He kind of thinks to himself, and he web slings the person, the mob boss, to
Yeah.
himself, and hoists him on his back, and he says, well, I'm gonna go turn this guy in. And
Mm-hmm.
then Miles says, didn't you hear what I just said? He's untouchable. He'll be out on the street within a week or so. Like, Peter Parker's like, yes, but he'll be away from you
Damn.
till you come to your damn senses. And then, before he goes off, Peter Parker says, if you're wanting to have a little back and forth, and if you want to, and since you're wearing my moniker, if you want to prove yourself from wearing that, meet me at this abandoned football stadium tomorrow.
Damn. All
So
right.
then, yeah. So then from there, Peter Parker turns in. He wakes up the next morning, and he starts packing stuff up. Like checking his stock, make sure his costume doesn't have any major cuts or anything or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets a call from Reed Richards, and he's like, "Oh hey, I got good news. I did some research, and looks like I might be able to do what you're asking." And Peter's like, "Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
How long?" And Reed says, "About 5 months. Is that a
Wow.
problem?" And Peter's like, "It shouldn't be, but I'll have to get my affairs in order." And Reed's like, "Till then, good luck. Like, good morning with the rest of your day."
Wow.
And at that point, Peter starts, working out, push-ups, sit-ups,
Mm-hmm.
flip-flopping.
Flip
And then
flopping.
he starts packing, yeah, like flip, back flip, front flip, checking his web cartridges.
All that.
Then he,
Yep.
yeah, then he starts packing like an ice cooler. And then suddenly he feels like a couple of hands to reach around. It's like, "What are you doing, Tiger?" He's like, "Oh, Mary Jane. Just packing for a meeting." And Mary Jane's like, "Peter, how long have we been married now? 5, 10 years?" And Peter's like, "10 years, dear." It's like, you can't lie to me. What's really going on? Then at that point, Peter, he decides, he's been caught. So he explains entirely what's going on. Mary Jane's just like, that's a lot to take in. I'm gonna need a little bit to process.
Mm.
And then he's like, all right. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go meet the kid. He's got powers. And, because he explained what Miles Morales was.
Yep.
And then at that point, Mary Jane asks, "So are you gonna hurt him?" And he's like, "No, like with anybody, I pull my punches because that is true. Spider-Man, if he actually uses entire like strength and agility, he would probably punch a hole in somebody, especially
Exactly.
anybody human."
Exactly. On that invincible type beat.
Exactly. And then Mary Jane retorts, "Is like, and he's the reason why you're looking into doing a blood treatment with Richards." And he says, "No, I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for me, MJ. I'm getting older, and the criminals are getting younger and younger. I've noticed I'm getting slower. At this rate, I'm gonna end up being dead. Spidey sense or not."
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of incorporating an argument.
Really?
Yeah,
All
and
right.
then he continues like, "MJ, I wanna have kids. I wanna move out. I wanna grow old with you. Being a superhero makes things very complicated." And then then Mary Jane says, I need to think on this. When we got married, we decided we were going to be a two-person team. And it appears you've made these decisions without letting me know. So I'm going to need some time." And he's like, "That's fair. I love you." And then
Mm.
he goes over, kisses her head, then makeshifts a backpack of webbing like he does.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "I'll be back."
Wow.
And then Peter hops off. He goes towards the football field. And then, Miles is like, "Is it too late to leave?" Because he's been kind of just sitting there for a while.
Yep.
And Miles shows up. He's like, "Well, are you ready?" And then Miles is like, yeah.
Hmm.
And then Peter gestures towards the middle of the football field. And then from there, it becomes like he says it's gonna be like an informer tryout testing his abilities. And
I
then he
see.
tells Miles, "Hey, all right, come at me." And Miles just kind of stands there for a while. They kind of look at each other. He's like, "Come on." He's like, "Well, you're Spider-Man. I don't know how to approach you. That time in the alley was a heat of the moment type of thing."
Wow.
Yeah. But that's most of it. I also got the fight scene if you want to hear that.
By all means, go off. I'm interested.
Okay. All right. So Peter says, "All right, fine. I'll start." So he web slings with his left hand, and Miles is able to dodge it. Then
Hmm.
he web slings with his right hand. Miles is able to dodge it, but he knows he's a little off. And he's like, "Spidey," and Peter Parker's like, "Spidey sense, right?" He's like, "Spidey what?" And by the time Miles responds, he's used both those web parts that he put on the ground as like a
Hmm.
slingshot to propel himself forward and double kicks Miles in the chest and throws him back.
Damn.
He's like, "That's the trouble with Spidey sense, knowing when not to hesitate." And then Miles is knocked down. He gets up. He's like, "That really caught me off guard there." Then he tries to check his back. So that tingling when I'm in danger, that's called Spidey sense. He's like, "Yeah, that's what I call it." Coming up with names for abilities makes it a lot easier to remember.
True.
So are you ready to throw in the towel? Miles is like, "No, no way. No, it's too late now." So he stands up, and Peter's like, "That's what I like to hear. Now the city
Wow.
isn't going to watch itself. You're taking up patrol time." And then he uses his hands and his knees to kind of jump up. Of course, he's just like, "That trick again? You're really going to have to do better than that." So
Hmm.
the Miles constantly to where his spidey senses keeps ticking over and over and over and over.
Hmm.
And, Peter Parker's looking around. And then at that point, Miles comes up with both hands and shocks him that way, which actually leaves him immobilized for a few seconds, letting Miles land a few punches and kicks.
Hmm.
And then he jumps up on his shoulders, kick on his shoulders and does like a jump kick off his shoulders.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That
it
is
goes
really
from
cool.
oh yeah. Yeah, then it goes from there, like they start, getting close to combat.
Hmm.
Miles, starts to he doesn't really had any training in fighting, so he kind of does like a boxer stance. I kind of took that into consideration, like his dad probably would have taught him that.
Yeah.
But the thing also is, I don't remember entirely what if police really learned boxing or anything. It just sounded right.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. And then they start swinging on each other, and he's like, "Well, you've managed." Peter's like, "Well, you managed to close the gap right now. What are you gonna do?" And Miles is like, "I guess I'll play it by ear." Starts swinging on Peter. Peter grabs both his hands,
Hmm.
and so Miles, starts tries to use his knees, which Parker's also able to block as well.
Yep.
So Miles realizes he is definitely at a real high disadvantage.
Mm.
So then he tries to go for a double hands, double stinger fist.
Hmm.
And Peter's like, "That's not going to work again." He's like, "I figured, but it'd be worth a good distraction." So then, what what Miles does, he does like a little short hop, switches his legs kind of forward, and kicks Parker in the chest. And then he goes to
Oh.
crouch down position, and he ends up use his legs to spring and headbutt Peter Parker in the chest.
Ah. Damn.
And then after that, they're both kind of laying on the ground, kind of both out of breath. And then that was a Peter's like, that was a good trick. Where'd you learn that from? He's like, "I mostly made it up for the last part. Uh, that was from Dragon Ball." And Peter stands up. He web slings the cooler earlier, and
Mhm.
he throws a bottle of water. Oh, I forgot. Before Peter left him in the alley, he asked what his name was. He said Miles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. But then he yells, "Miles, catch!" So he grabs a bottle of water. They kind of do the whole lifting the mask up thing.
Mhm.
They both start drinking water. Peter says, Miles, after a few minutes of just kind of silence, yeah, so how did I do? He's like, you're on your way, but you're a little green. So then he asks, what powers does he have, back and forth and whatnot.
Right.
Like, you know, Peter Parker notices, he can do this, 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 and this. He's like, I can also wall crime as well. It's kind of why I pick up your costume. And then he's like, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to steal your identity, honest. Your powers were the only ones that lined up with what I could do. So I figured if I went out at night, people wouldn't actually be able to notice the difference.
Mm.
No. And, he apologized, says he knows it's stupid, but he couldn't think of anything else.
Right.
And Peter's like, well, with my training, I think you'll be able to help avoid that. Like, really? Are you sure? Yes, I think you have potential. And that's the end of issues 1, 2, and 3. They just kind of got away from me. Like I said, kind of kept going. And
I
then,
gotta say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. Okay, and then issue 4, I
Mhm.
explain what happened to Miles' mother.
Mhm.
Basically, uh, Miles is walking home from I'm gonna say the library, or from the inner city,
Yeah.
and he feels like something kind of bites him a little bit. Ha
Mhm.
ha, bug he can't see, but we can see, basically. But
Right.
what happens is he gets home and he immediately faints.
Mm.
So his parents get him to the hospital, and he kind of
Gotcha.
goes into a coma. And while he's in the coma, get the while it's doing its thing, giving him powers and whatnot, that's when the hit happens.
Right.
So basically, he was developing powers, and he couldn't do anything while his mother got killed.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
and yeah, and that's mostly it for my presentation. There's more ideas I do want to do later on, like I hate to say it, but like one day, of course, you're gonna have to do the whole, what if current Spider-Man were to get captured or something?
Oh yeah.
So what I would do, I would actually have Peter Parker put on just a black suit, no emblem or anything,
Mhm.
and he just go in there with a grappling hook and just try to help the best he can, because even though he doesn't have powers anymore, I'm sure it's like riding a bike, muscle memory, like you're
Oh
gonna remember how
yes.
to do some shit.
Right.
So, yeah, and then one thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to call him Spider-Man, not Miles Morales is Spider-Man or something like that. No, he is Spider-Man. Kind of like
My
how
guy.
Terry McGinnis is Batman, you know?
Yes. Oh yeah.
But yeah, but that's mostly the end of my presentation. What you got for me?
Alrighty. So, few things plus a question. I really
Go
like
for it.
how you I really like how you establish everything with why Peter's doing this, why he picked, sees Miles as having a lot of potential and actually helping him grow, to be the Spider-Man, and it's not to just be a Spider-Man, but the Spider-Man. And, condensing the cast and everything, that's also a really good thing. Cause here's the thing, I really like because with your story, it feels like a more well, I like the movie, but I feel like this is a more perfected version of Spider-Verse. It's like you took that
Mm,
concept of when Miles met Peter from, the beginning of the movie, and it's like, okay, I probably gotta train this guy and everything because we're the same and all that stuff. But
yeah,
you got it from a different route where it's like there's no multiverse, there's no big, giant storyline or anything that involves a machine or kingpin and all that stuff. Like you really make it more ground level and interesting. And again, I think you probably made my favorite dynamic of Mary Jane and Peter Parker that I've I'll be real, I never really liked them together, but this I'm feeling.
That's good.
Oh yeah. And what's that? And as far as like my questions and everything, like what would you say would be the point where like if you have it yet, like what would you say would be like a point where like Miles finally does become like the Spider-Man?
I would say after that 5 months of training, and
Mhm.
of course there would be like kind of like pages of montages of him going out with Peter, and the graduation would probably be Peter handing off the web sling,
Mhm.
web shooter. Kind of like one of my favorite things out of the Spider-Man crossover that they did, where Miles
Mhm.
and regular Spider-Man met. Like he gave over. They went to Peter Parker's house in the Ultimate Universe, and it was in the same space. Peter
Yep.
Parker met Aunt May and Gwen Stacy of that universe, and he went up to his room and he found the web slingers, and he was like, "All right, Miles, here.
Wow.
You're Spider-Man now."
I like that. I really
Yeah.
do.
I I will say there are a couple of continuity things I'm working on. Like one thing I was trying to work on was I haven't decided if Aunt May's dead or not. That's one thing I'm still trying to figure out.
Mhm.
But I will say I think I might have figured out a way to make one more day not happen, if that makes sense, because that's a really irritating plot line.
Mhm.
So what I've thought about doing is maybe having Peter Parker making like a press conference, after all this stuff has happened,
Yeah.
and he actually gets shot and killed. But
Wow.
it turns out that they go on closer inspection. It'd either be the chameleon, or it would actually be a scroll.
Mhm.
And then we would have real Peter Parker show up and be like, "What is?" He would actually show up and be like, "That's not me."
What?
And then he would be like, because he's that Peter Parker is actually just a Spider-Man, while this one is just normal Peter Parker.
Mhm.
Kind of like a bait and switch of like, oh, that was a scroll. That wasn't really Peter Parker. And scrolls
Yeah.
have the ability to mimic powers and
Mhm.
whatnot.
Wow. All right.
So, kind of like for some odd reason, they chose Peter Parker's identity because they didn't really know what Spider-Man looked like without his mask.
I see. All right. I like that.
Yeah. So then afterwards, they would, cart him off, and then Peter Parker, he would call Shield and he'd say, "Thank you for doing that for
Wow.
me." So, Shield kind of helped him fake his death, in a way to be like, reverse the whole people thinking that Peter Parker was actually Spider-Man.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I should give a happy ending for for our boy too.
Yeah. I will say not all endings need to be happy, but
Mhm.
sometimes things would be nice if they didn't do the stupid Mephisto thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good lord.
But but yeah, that's basically it. You got any more questions or anythings?
I guess like if I were to add like were there any ideas that you would like stick or like get rid of that you would like, keep for like Miles's story? Like would you keep the Uncle Aaron thing of him being like the prowler and stuff?
I think as a dynamic, it would definitely be a good idea to do so.
Mhm.
Kind of to show, like if Miles used his powers for the wrong reason, you know.
Right.
So I think that dynamic is key.
All right. All right.
Yeah. But I will say this is trying to think like yeah, that's about it. Like other than of course, eventually we'll have like more cameos of different heroes
Mhm.
and whatnot show up.
Right.
I think I actually had the idea of like Daredevil being dressed up as Spider-Man to kind of help with that whole Yeah, that's what it was. Like I was gonna have Daredevil also show up as Spider-Man, so we would see Spider-Man and Peter Parker in the same room with the assassinated Skrull.
Okay, I like that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that little tangent. And then be like,
No, that's
oh,
good.
they're not the same person at all. What the hell?
I gotcha.
Yeah. But I
That's a
think that's
good
basically
dynamic.
it. I think that's basically it. I might write more, but that's that would be like a 4 issue. That'd be like a 5 issue story, and then the annual would be like the sixth, and that would be the whole old Spider-Man come back. But I wouldn't call him the Spider.
Nah, yeah,
It'd just
nah.
be yeah,
No, that's good. And like I said, you actually embrace the fact of like, referring to Miles as Spider-Man, like you said, with like Terry McGinnis being Batman. It's just like it's passing down the mantle. You don't have to deal with like two heroes in the same room with the same name and everything, because that gets weird and confusing after a while. And yeah, nah, I like it. I really like it.
yeah. And I do apologize. It's kind of a. I think I just talked off your ear.
No, you,
Sorry
no,
about.
you're fine. No, you're fine because like, no, you're fine because like I was really interested in the story, especially when you were describing the fight scene. Like
Oh,
between like Miles and Peter, and saying like oh yeah, I just got that from Dragon Ball. I'm like, okay, are we liking this Miles fan of Dragon Ball, friend of mine?
oh, oh yeah. And then like I don't remember why he's named Miles. Like I think it's off of Miles Day.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it would be kind of funny if he was named Miles after Tails.
Really?
Yeah, just be like that'd be kind of funny because his dad would have been that age.
No,
But I
yeah.
think what would be funny would he would be named after Miles, but like Miles Day. But then his dad would keep kind of teasing him. It's like, yeah, I named you after Tails. And
Nice.
then you want to hear my I call this like crossover. What I would do end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic shows up.
Word?
Yeah, Sonic shows up, and basically the radiation off the Chaos Emeralds would temporarily give Peter Parker his powers back.
Wow.
So we would have Spider-Man, um, Sonic, Tails, but so Miles and Miles.
Wow.
Yeah, and like I said, it'd be kind of insane. Like that'd be kind of like the funny thing, and like basically like Miles kind of fanboying a little bit. It's like, oh shit, you're Tails.
Right?
Yeah, he's like his dad might have teased him, but I mean he didn't actually like Tails.
Exactly. And no, I like that because look, we could have some fun, some crossovers every now and again. Like, come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah, of course. But yeah, that's kind of like my that's kind of one of my pipe dream crossovers. It probably wouldn't happen. It'd probably be kind of dumb to the storyline, but if it would be like, this is kind of a one-off where the writer just kind of wanted to fanboy for a little bit,
Hmm.
please forgive me. I mean, what about your idea? Would you want to crossover with anybody? Like anybody outlandish?
Outlandish. Okay, it's kind of be a weird one because
Go for
I've
it.
always thought, like, I thought about this since I was like a kid and everything. When I was watching both shows at the same time, I'm like, WB technically owns well, yeah, they do own like a lot of like Steven Spielberg cartoons because it produces a lot of them. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking to myself, I don't know if you remember this one, but The Mask and Freakazoid.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome as hell.
Exactly, because like I've been thinking about that one. I would love to see like how like this because Freakazoid he's a wild card. But he's more like a good boy compared to the Mask, who's just out of pocket all the time. And I'm thinking, hey, how would their dynamic be? Where it'd be like they would fight, they would agree on certain things, probably get the babes, but they for the most part just be like they're like a little bit of opposites attract where the what's the word I'm looking for? E- the evil goofball meets the goody two shoes goofball, and just
Yeah,
bring it
yeah.
together. It'd be perfect. And
Also,
oh
sorry.
yeah,
Go on.
yeah.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, Go ahead. Sorry.
I know,
I'll
I
let you finish.
know. Like there's just that one, and because I was literally just like falling asleep while watching it last night. The Mask and the Tick.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be really good. They're
Oh
both indie
yes,
comics and they're both owned by Dark Horse. That'd be easier to do.
exactly. I'm just like just mix those two together. Like I don't know what could come out of it, but all I could think of is just like gold, a crackhead gold, but perfect type of gold.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that the Tick, he's actually insane. That's his characteristic.
Exactly.
Like
Yup.
he believes himself to be a superhero. That's kind of his kind of dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
But which would be pretty funny. It'd be like you're really a superhero, you know? I haven't read the comics though, so I can't confirm much. I've only
I
really watched the
know.
cartoon as a kid.
Oh yeah, nah. Cause like yeah, like you said, like literally when I like read like some of his comics and everything from the origin and onward, I'm like, oh yeah, Dick's crazy. Like literally the first issue was just him in the nut house and he's like, what am I doing here? So he just like dips and I don't think anyone's been looking for him ever since. It's kind of just like crazy got out, whatever.
Yeah. And the other one would be pretty good because you would be putting a ultra violent person in the real world into the cartoon world.
Yes, exactly.
Which what does a man do when they're in the same world? Basically, it's kind of like an interesting dynamic.
Exactly, just total chaos, and I would just embrace that
Oh yeah.
chaos right there.
Like, could you imagine him like trying to like I don't know, I'm trying to think like, could you imagine him like being like, haha, take this Wiley, and then Wiley Coyote just stands up. He's like, oh okay. It's like, oh wait, you can't die.
That's true, you're a tune. Feel a lot of
Yeah,
pain though, but you usually get up from that.
exactly. And also, it'd actually be pretty cool if you actually put him in like the Spielberg verse, where you would have like the Tiny Toons and the like Animaniacs as well. You could expand upon that actually, because
Ah,
Freaka's always
yes.
canonically in that universe.
Exactly, yes, and that's actually another thing I've thought about because, like, literally, there was this one episode of like the Mask animated series where they literally just had the Mask like basically meet like these characters called the Goofalotatots, who are literally just a parody of the
Yeah.
Animaniacs.
Oh, okay.
And I'm watching that like, but what if they were like legit the Animaniacs though? I'm like, damn, this is
Yeah.
close as I'm gonna get to that crossover as a kid. But the power of writing, I can make it happen.
And also, I think would be a really good one, like a
hmm
mini issue, or like I would say maybe do one with each character in the Spielberg verse.
hmm
Like one really good idea, I think I feel free to steal. I don't care. Would like, what if he helped Pinky the Brain actually take over the world?
You know what? I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought of that. Yes, I like that.
And then like at the end, he either turns on them or he actually blows up the world
Damn,
or something like that. That'd be something ridiculous.
exactly. Like, yeah, yeah. No, I like that. It's like finally, Pinky, we managed to take over the world. We. The mask says,
Yeah.
we speak in French, mon ami. Type beat. Like, yeah, nah, I like that a lot.
And then could you imagine like I'm thinking of another one would be like if the Mask actually took over Tiny Toons Academy, like he kicked out and now he became the new principal.
Yo, I would love that. I love that. Matter of fact, that'd be a perfect way to just end the episode. The mask is
Oh yeah.
like the mask is literally just like, you know what, guys? I think I finally figured out what I need to do to be a proper tune. And Bugs is like,
Yeah.
all right, Doc, that's great. What do you need to do? Mask is like, if you want to learn something, just do it yourself. So he just kicks out all the Looney Tunes. It's just like, all right, class, let's talk about slapstick 101.
Exactly.
Oh man. So yeah, that'd be perfect. I love that.
And I think it'd also be good if you had him like maybe maybe like fanboy over like a lot of the Tex Avery cartoons. That'd be
Yup.
pretty cool because that's where I think Ipkiss kind of watched and got a lot of his ideas from. But that's only in the movie. But I think it'd still be good.
Oh no, yeah, it'd be perfect either way.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine him meeting Droopy. That'd be hilarious.
Yes, sir. I love that. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Dude, and then you could like you could like make a chapter where he's just trying to make Droopy smile.
Right? It's like, come on, why did you laugh?
And then he's just like, huh, huh.
It'd be
Oh
perfect.
yeah, oh yeah,
Absolutely perfect. I love that.
all right.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, good stuff, dude.
Real good
My,
stuff.
that's what my ADD kind of does. It kind of gives me vast information, but and ideas. But the ADD part of it also is like, yeah, but are you really gonna like write that down or hey, look, another idea? I'm like, God damn it, you know what I mean?
Oh no, trust and believe. I struggle with that a lot. Like trying to write something down. It's like that's why I got like multiple scripts now where it's like, hey, if I get tired of this idea, I could at least go back to this one. If I got a new idea, I'm just gonna type it up on here. It's a pain in the neck, but hey, it works sometimes.
Yeah. Well, when did we start recording? Like,
We started around like 6:50 and we are currently on 7:42.
oh, okay.
So we're making great time. We're making
Yeah, we
great
are.
time.
We actually pretty damn close. I will say that this type of thing, we'll probably do it like every once in a while.
Hmm.
This will be like a special thing. Like, I'm sure there'll be like more characters that we want to like retool and maybe give better things to. Because there's a lot of them out there, and like, not all characters are created equal.
Yeah, that's true. There's,
Like, one idea I kind of have is, and this will be controversial, and
mhm.
I'll say it. I think Batman has too many people, too many sidekicks. It needs to be trimmed. It needs to be trimmed down.
Thank you. You're not
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
No, that's definitely a valid criticism. It's like I remember you saying like last time how you said you are a Batman fan, but it's like even the biggest Batman fan will have to be honest. Like, yeah, sometimes we gotta cut down some of these characters, bruh.
yeah. I mean, you gotta take the good with the bad, but you can kind of either go with it or figure out a way to change it. Like heck, like Dark Knight Rise. Dark Knight Rises 2. You know,
Hmm.
like I think everybody just forgets that exists for good reasons.
Yeah, and don't get me started on the Master Race.
I tried starting that and I didn't go very far. I was like, this is all right, but you killed Superman.
Mm,
Yeah,
rip.
yeah,
No, yeah, I definitely feel that. It's like I said, it's really like that with me. And I remember we had this some conversation earlier when I was talking about Deadpool, where I'm
yeah.
like yeah. So there's like that's a whole can of worms. I literally just want to like be like, you know what? I could fix this.
Mhm. Ooh, that'd be kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's like I said, I won't elaborate too much, but basically cut down on the memes and just make him a simple, cynical asshole and just work with that. It's a lot easier.
yeah. I mean, hell, you could like since Deadpool sees himself as kind of like a big shot. Could you imagine like him like going out doing like bounties and then like it's like haha I made all this money and then his rent comes in and he's like, oh, I'm broke again.
Yes. See that always works. That works right there.
Oh yeah.
Good lord.
And then
So
heck,
yeah.
sorry, now I'm having more ideas where you could be like, well, he didn't have any bounties, so he just starts taking odd jobs around the city. It's like, I gotta
Exactly.
wash these dishes to make money.
Yeah, it's just like, damn, I gotta do normal jobs now. Alright.
He he he's like, damn, rent's so expensive. I must be living in New York.
Exactly. Just writes itself, you know?
Oh yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's not. Trying to think. I think that's about it mostly. Any exciting projects you're coming out with soon?
Projects as of
Yeah, you
now,
just finished your big Pepper Ann video, if I remember right.
indeed. Thank you. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And you know, recommend some folks go check that out if you're a fan of obscure cartoons, which is something I talk about on the daily.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Any more mom malicious videos I should know about coming up soon?
oh
Mom
yes,
Appreciation 101.
yes, Mom Appreciation 101. There's definitely more content of that. And you know, just spotlight some love of old school anime like you know, hey, Project Echo.
Mm-hmm. I want to watch that.
It is so good, and you know, it's on websites, but you know, you can definitely
Oh,
check it out there.
I gotta find that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and to I guess people who may have not caught the podcast, this man he likes the moms. He
Yes.
he
Yes,
likes
I
the
do.
milk.
Some fine, mature ladies, if you will. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Not wrong at
Not at
all.
all. Not at
Uh,
all.
for now, this is kind of the project I'm doing. This
Alright.
podcast. So I mean, there's not too much to go into. Gonna try to get this one out. Where I think I found at least got a couple of artists to kind of help with getting things situated. But I hope the
That's
first
good.
episode actually comes out.
Oh yeah, no, because that one
Oh
was in development and that one got deep, y'all. Like y'all don't understand. Like we're talking about comic book stuff now. Just wait till the first one comes out.
yeah, yeah. And this is just like two character analyses.
Exactly.
All right, I think we're good to go. All right. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and you guys have a pleasant evening, morning, or whatever time zone you figure yourself in, let alone it being forever or just a constant collection of things going
Depending on
forward, backward.
depending on when you're watching this, yes.